I'm sober, and it's great. I think I've been smoking too much because last night I totally had an OCD freak out where every time I went to take Susan out, even though I locked my door and like we were going like 2 feet away to the garden, whenever I would come back in, I would check every single possible hiding place I could think of for like an intruder. And you've never been to my apartment, and I don't think I've taken you on a tour ever, but it is a studio, so there are not a lot of places to hide. I'm like looking up like on the ceiling of my closet, like could this intruder be doing a Matilda thing where they like stick themselves on the top of the table? I don't know, but I've been feeling a lot better today. So, yeah. Anyways, coronavirus is also freaking me out.
Yeah.
Not like because I'm scared of the virus itself, just because I really was not expecting the whole like social shutdown.
Yeah.
Thing. Like my twin is no longer coming to Seattle for her birthday, and we're not going to go to the My Dad Wrote a Porno show anymore. And it's so sad. But like also I get it because she would be going on the Amtrak, which would like be filled with germs, into the center of the coronavirus epidemic in the United States. So
yeah,
I feel it. And I'm like still going to work, which is good. But I'm also just like, if they close down the school and I don't know how long, then that's not going to help me financially.
Right.
But anyways,
at least I'm not. Like, I really want to go to New York. Like I was planning to go to New York this summer, but like, is that really a good idea? Probably not.
No. I just really wasn't expecting this when 2020 came. You know, I was not going to be like, oh, like no one rides the bus on the weekends anymore because of the coronavirus. I took Susan to the groomers yesterday, and it's great, and she looks so cute. But there were like maybe like 5 people total that I saw on the bus.
Yeah, I was walking around yesterday, and I was like, why? Like, there's too many people here for it to be a finals week. But also too many people here to be not finals week. So that can only mean one thing, that it's spring break. But also if it's spring break, like if it was spring break, it would be empty. So what is going on? And I found out that like UW was just closed.
Yeah. So it wasn't there like a case among one of the faculty members or something?
I don't know. I'm trying not to keep up with it because I don't want to be paranoid. I already get enough of information from my dad, and I'm just I don't want it in my life.
Yeah.
I'm washing my hands, trying to touch my face less. And I'm not leaving my house.
Yeah. I'm like not worried about like dying from it, because it seems to mostly target like older people or people with compromised immune systems already.
Yeah.
But I also definitely don't want to be a carrier. So
exactly.
Yeah. I've been like washing my hands more than I have ever washed my hands. And I'm like, I should have been doing this before. How many colds could I have prevented if I washed my hands?
Especially around kids now, yeah.
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 Yeah. And like my synagogue is closed. And that's very unsettling because, like irreligious institutions are just not supposed to shut down like that, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like, the open door policy is supposed to always, but I get it because there's a lot of older people in our congregation. And,
yeah.
On the upside, I'm scheduling my Beit Din for next month, which means I'm going to be halfway to being a complete Jew.
Oh, nice.
I'm so excited. And then I'm gonna there's this thing called a mikveh where like it's like a ceremonial like dunk in the water, and I'm gonna do mine, Puget Sound, in July. And it's gonna be so cool but so great.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna be actually Jewish. Oh, I'm so excited. Assuming that the coronavirus doesn't. Anyways.
Yeah.
Should we hop in that good old time machine?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to go back too far this time.
Okay.
I want you to punch in 2014.
Really? 2014?
Yep.
I was in high school. Okay.
Yep.
Beep, 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 beep.
So around this time, you might have been out of school, not like graduated high school, but it's June.
Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah.
My mom wants to FaceTime.
Oh no.
I'll call her back later. Hang on, let me just text her real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe you're not in session anyways, because it's the middle of June. But today I'm going to be talking about the Watcher House.
The Watcher House?
The Watcher House.
Watcher House.
Yeah.
Is that a Jehovah's Witness thing? Sounds like it.
No.
Okay. Oh wait, I'm thinking of the Watchtower.
Yeah, no. It's the Watcher House, or 657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey.
Okay.
And she does. Wow.
You okay?
No.
Did you just have a stroke?
I think so.
Okay.
In June 2014, Maria and Derek Broaddus purchased a house in Westfield, New Jersey for just under $1.4 million. It had 6 bedrooms and multiple fireplaces, and Derek had worked hard to become the senior vice president of an insurance company in Manhattan so they could afford the house. They planned to move in with their 3 children later that month, but they first wanted to remodel certain parts of the house, which was originally built in 1906. So kind of an old house. They wanted to upgrade it.
It's a very old house. That's over 100 years, almost 100 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, it would have been 100 years old.
Wait.
At least.
In 2014?
Yeah.
To
1906.
19.
It's like 108.
I can't do math, but I trust you. Oh, yeah, because 20...
Don't trust me on math.
Yep. You were right. I can't do
okay. Yeah, okay.
God.
So, just 3 days after their purchase, Derek was alone in the house around 10 p.m. checking the mail when he found a letter addressed to the new owner in awkward handwriting. The letter began, "Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood." Starts off nice, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, is that it?
Yeah, but it went on to read, 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I've been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here? I will find out. That's super creepy.
What the fuck? Okay, I'm like, it could either be true crime at this point, or it could be paranormal.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, it's true crime because you're telling the story, but...
Yes.
Or both.
Well, that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is, unfortunately for you, I love unsolved cases, but it is unsolved.
What?
So, you're welcome. Another part of the letter called out the family's... Sorry, what?
I said, how dare you?
Another part of the letter called out the family's minivan, their renovations, and the fact that they had 3 children, which the letter writer called, quote, young blood.
Wait, so the writer called out the minivan?
Like, just like, oh, here are some things that I know about you already.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant, like, called out in a judgy way. Like, you have a minivan.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, they called the children young blood and asked if there were more on the way.
Oh my... What the fuck? Who is this? Wait, is this in the same letter or later?
This is the same letter.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So it's all just really long. Wait, okay. Sorry. I have a lot of questions. So this family just moved in, like, how many days ago? And they already have a stalker. 3 days ago, and they already have a stalker. I hate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Continue. Sorry.
They were also upset that the Broadduses were renovating the house, claiming they were destroying the house and stating that they didn't want to make 657 Boulevard unhappy. So, paranormal? True crime? Who knows? The most terrifying part, I think, is definitely the young blood part, but tied for first place is the fact that whoever wrote the letter brings up the fact that they could be anyone in the neighborhood. They're like, ha ha ha, you can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man. There are hundreds and hundreds of cars that drive by 657 Boulevard each day. Maybe I am in one. Look at all the windows you can see from 657 Boulevard. Maybe I am in one. Look out any of the many windows in 657 Boulevard at all the people who stroll by each day. Maybe I am one.
Oh.
And it was signed, The Watcher.
No. This is what I'm scared of. This is what I don't like about living alone.
I know, you're telling me how you got really paranoid, and I was like, well, you're in for a treat today, then.
Jesus, fuck. Okay. Shit, I had a question. Okay, I think my brain had a lapse.
Okay, well, hopefully I will answer your question. Whatever it was. Yeah, just everything about the story is super creepy, even the weird theories about what was actually going on. And just, we'll get to it. I don't know why I included that in there.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. I also had a stroke. Again.
Multiple strokes aren't good, dude. No. Someone in my family had a stroke, but they made it.
Oh, good.
Oh, they did not make it because it was my parents' first dog.
Had a stroke.
Had 2 strokes.
Oh.
She did live to be 18.
I'm still alive and kicking, I think, so we're good.
Okay. So far.
I'm telling this from my grave.
Oh my god.
So Derek read the letter and called the Westfield police because what else the fuck do you do, right? And the police asked him to, list. Do you have any known enemies? And Derek was like, no, I don't think so. And
especially in the neighborhood
where Maria and their children were sleeping. The old house, not the one that they just bought, but the one that they were going to sell. And he welcomed his wife and his wife Maria. And together they wrote an email to the previous owners of the house, Andrea and John Woods. Andrea? I don't know. They're spelled the same. The Woods. Asking if they had ever experienced anything like this before they sold the house. So the other couple, the Woods couple, wrote back the next morning saying that they had indeed received a letter from the Watcher, but it was only one and right before they moved, so they didn't really think anything of it, even though it was also mentioned details hinting that the Watcher had been observing them for an extended period of time. I put this quote in here twice because I'm an idiot. Whoever the Watcher isn't, I don't know, wants to super, psych them out and make them think they're always being watched, but so far they haven't made any indication that they're going to take violent or direct action against any of the tenants, whether the previous tenants, the Woods, or the current Broadduses. So they haven't taken any physical action.
It's still very implicit though. I'm watching you. Why else would someone be watching you like that?
Right.
And trying to terrify you.
Yeah, so they go to the police, right? And then the next day after they wrote the email to the other couple, the couple goes to the police station with the Broadduses the next day, and they tell the police, who tells them to keep everything under wraps, and especially don't tell your new neighbors, because it could be any one of them.
What?
And you don't want to antagonize them. You don't want to, just in case, right? Yeah. So the day after they went to the police, so this is day 5 of them living in this house.
Mm-hmm.
The family goes to a neighborhood barbecue, and introduce themselves. They said nothing about the letter as instructed, but they made sure to keep their kids in sight and within yelling distance to call them back if needed.
Mm-hmm.
Maria describes how they kept calling for their children if they wandered just a little far out of reach,
Mm-hmm.
and like she was just like, yeah, we kept screaming for them, just like make sure we knew where they were, and the neighbors must have thought we were crazy.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yeah.
So normally I would not say like just move out of the house, but if these people can afford like a $1.4 million house, why don't they just get out if they can?
Because it's day 5.
But someone's already sent you like a creepy ass letter. I don't know. I would, if I had enough money, I would get out of there. But that's just.
I mean, who knows? Like, what if they spent all their money on this new house?
That's true. Yeah. I don't really know how house buying works.
And you just bought the house. You went through all this, the steps to like get a realtor, get the house.
Yeah.
Now you gotta like find a realtor and sell the house.
Yeah.
I mean, now would have been the best time to sell the house if they were going to, before any of the information about the letters get out. But they kind of also ruined their chance to sell it quietly, because I'll tell you why. But
Okay.
They kind of ruined their chance. But yeah, I mean, like, this is the middle of New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
In a nice neighborhood, you wouldn't expect anything to happen to you. So I guess they kind of had a reason to be paranoid, but still, like, I don't know. I would have waited maybe another couple of weeks to see if there was another letter that showed up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too concerned. But also they have children, so, like, young children, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I could never relate. I have no idea how that feels. A few weeks after they bought the house, they still hadn't fully moved in because they feared whoever wrote the letter might take actual action. Not only that, but they received another letter that detailed specific things about their lives that the watcher could obtain from looking through the windows of their new house.
Mm-hmm.
Maria started to deep dive on the internet for any information about people who gave them weird looks on the street or the grocery store, and just became increasingly paranoid about people watching them, and like what, just paranoid. Yeah.
So, that sounds about right.
Yeah. She also began to have dreams about a man who wore like boots and carried a pitchfork.
Creepy.
That's the only description I have. I can't elaborate on that further. But she dreamed about this guy coming to their house and threatening the kids.
Not great. Very bad, actually.
Yeah, some of their paranoia paid off, actually. The private investigator they hired to look into the neighbors discovered that 2 different child sex offenders lived within only a few blocks of the family. But I mean, that was about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. The police tried to run tests on the envelopes for fingerprints and DNA, but nothing came up. There was nothing they could do to trace the letters back to anyone who could possibly be responsible for them. Though they did know that the letters came from Englewood, because that's where they were postmarked from, Englewood, New Jersey. So they knew that the writer was at least kind of from the area, because Englewood was about a 40-minute drive from Westwood.
Got it.
Westwood. What am I talking about? Westfield is where this takes place. Sorry. That's a typo on my part. So, at the end of 2014, the police informed the Broaddus family that there was nothing left they could do about the letters. The watcher wasn't taking any action on their threats. They weren't actually carrying through with them, and there's no connection to anyone through the handwriting, DNA, or fingerprints. And none of the neighbors seemed overly suspicious enough to be real suspects. Here are some of the neighbors. There's an older couple who lived in the house behind theirs, who had lawn chairs that were placed very close to the property line and faced the Broaddus house, but the police determined that they weren't really a threat.
Yeah.
They just like to keep their chairs there. There was also a family a couple of houses down named the Langfords. Which consisted of Peggy Langford in her 90s and some of her children who were also in their 60s.
Wait, the kids were in their 60s?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The neighbors described them as odd but harmless. Because they're kind of older. Like, What else? What could they do to you? Possibly, like, probably nothing. They described one of the kids, who was in his 60s, Michael Langford, as kind of a, quote, kind of a Boo Radley character. And so the police brought him in for questioning, but nothing came of it, despite Derek's insistence that Michael's quote-unquote narrative, or whatever, lined up with a possible motive to send the letters. The narrative, according to Derek, was that the Langford house was right next to the easel on the porch where the family liked to paint and could easily watch them from there. Also, more importantly, in my opinion, the watcher had included in their letter about how the family had been watching the house for generations. And the Langford family, their family patriarch, Richard, had died 12 years before. And the watcher writing the letters, whoever was writing the letters, the watcher, claimed to have been in the role for the better part of 2 decades. Right, which seems about, Richard died 12 years ago. Whoever's next in line, Michael, let's say, had been watching the house for the better part of 2 decades.
Got it.
I wouldn't say that 12 years... I guess 12 years is a better part of 2 decades. I don't know. But, I mean, that's really the only thing that lines up with the quote-unquote narrative that could possibly mean that Michael was the one sending the letters.
Yeah.
So Derek decided to install cameras around the outside of the house and also stay up at night, crouching under windows to see if anyone was watching the house from a close range. He made diagrams from which angles someone could look in and, like, see things. And he just, like, became super paranoid in other ways than his wife. Letters started to become more and more unhinged, as the writer of the Cut article that I read put it, claiming that the house was turning on them and coming after them.
Yikes.
Here's another quote from the letter. "What spell did you cast on it? It used to be my friend, and now it is my enemy. I am in charge of 657 Boulevard. I will be patient and wait for this to pass, and for you to bring the young blood back to me. 657 Boulevard needs young blood. It needs you. Come back. Let the young blood play again like it once did. Sorry, like I once did. Let the young blood sleep at 657 Boulevard. Stop changing it and let it alone." Because remember, they're doing maintenance on it, they're doing renovations. And Maria and Derek had decided to move in with Maria's mother once they were fully moved out of their old house, instead of the house at 657.
Okay. So they do, limit their contact.
Yeah. So they haven't lived fully in the house. They never really, moved into it.
Okay.
So whoever's watching the house is like, come on, move in. The house needs young blood. Let them sleep there.
Wait. I thought he was complaining before about how they shouldn't be there.
No, he wants the children to be there, right?
That's creepy. I don't no.
But he's mad that they're ruining the house, right? They're doing renovations, they're tearing it apart. They're not doing it justice. They're not just letting it be.
Yeah.
So
I just hate the young blood thing. What the fuck is he trying to say? Well,
I have no idea.
I assume that's a he. But
exactly, we have no idea. And when they did a DNA test on it and stuff, they found female DNA.
Interesting.
But besides, that's all they had.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So like I said, they moved in with Maria's mom instead of the house, but they still had to pay taxes and everything on it. On the 657 Boulevard. Derek complained about having to go between the 2 properties and the upkeep of the house, shoveling the driveway, saying, quote, "Picture that little indignity. I'd go at 5 a.m, then come back and do it again at my in-laws." Shovel snow at both houses, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, must suck for you. You don't want this expensive home because you're getting threatening letters and, now you have to shovel snow at 2 houses? Wow. Sucks.
Yeah.
Why can't you ask your wife to do it? I just feel like that's kind of a picture that little indignity. That's probably not how he said it, but that's how I read it in my head.
Yeah. So many bigger things happen here, dude.
Exactly. They ended up telling friends and other family that they didn't move into the house because of legal issues, but they were very stressed about the house and what the watcher could possibly do to them or the kids. And this was the moment when a local reporter found out about the complaint that the Broaddus's filed with the house's previous owners, the Woods, for not disclosing the letters, or the one letter that they received from the Watcher before they moved out. Did that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like they're like
the Woods got a letter. They didn't disclose it to the Broaddus's before they transferred ownership, and so the Broaddus's complained, and a local reporter found out.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
The news immediately spiraled, and everyone was afraid to go near the boulevard, which is like the entire road.
Yeah.
Right? And the kids finally found out because Derek and Maria had been trying to keep it from them so they wouldn't be scared.
Yeah.
And obviously they're still trying to clear out the house so they can sell it. So yeah, okay, sure. They were trying to sell the house. They knew it wasn't going to be a great time for their family, so they wanted to sell it.
Yeah. And sell the new house, you mean?
Sell the new house, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
But the problem is, like, the letters were exposed, and nobody wanted to buy the house for the family because they're like, we don't want threats.
Yeah.
They put the house up for sale in early 2016, and initially they had several potential buyers, all of whom met with lawyers to hash out the details, but they all immediately backed out as soon as they were shown the letters.
Yeah.
Up until now, only what was in the letters, like the actual letters, was only speculations. The Broaddus's and the police had both decided to keep them out of the media. Whatever's in the entirety of the letters must have been spooky enough to scare off those who didn't really believe in the whole thing to begin with. So like some bits and snippets have been released to the public because of the complaint that they had filed, but the entirety of the letters have never been released up until this point. And so like whatever's in the rest of them must have really just spooked people away. The Broaddus's backup plan was to sell the full property to a developer, like the house including the lot, like yard and stuff around it, to a developer for $1 million who could tear down the existing house and divide the lot into two smaller lots. But when the Westfield Planning Board drew it all up, the lots were too small to legally exist in the zone. They would each be about 67 feet wide, while the city required lots to be at least 70 feet wide. So they're just shy of it. Sucks. The house was a beloved property in the neighborhood. Over 100 residents attended the meeting that would decide the fate of the house. One neighbor brought in a lawyer, actually, to defend the house and make sure they didn't tear it down. Why would they bring in a lawyer? I don't know. Because they were watching themselves? I don't know. No one knows. Lots of people who attended the meetings were reported to think the whole thing was a hoax. And the planning board decided not to split up the property, and the Broaddus's began renting out the house to a family with older children and 2 dogs. Of course, there was a clause in the rental agreement that said they could end the lease without penalty if another letter showed up. Lo and behold, 2 weeks after they started renting, another letter did show up, and it was signed, "All Hail the Watcher," with 3 exclamation points.
Oh my god.
It contained a list of forms of revenge that the Watcher would take on them for living in the house, including things like a car accident or fire, also sudden deaths of loved ones.
Eek.
So I think the Watcher just wants the children in the house. They don't really care about the adults.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the thing. They want the children.
Yeah.
They want the young blood to be absorbed by the house. I don't know.
To be okay.
That's my wording. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very creepy. Just they don't want people in there, but they want the children.
Yeah. Yeah, and like when you mentioned that there were like sex offenders in the area, now I'm like, I don't know, but
I don't know.
Yeah, or they're just like,
I mean, a lot of times
losing their shit.
Like, they're logged and reported, and they have to move or whatever. Then they don't want to like be known. So why would they send a letter unless they're like repeated sex offenders? Child sex offenders are completely different from sex offenders. I don't know.
So
there's just a lot happening.
So like they aren't child sex offenders.
They are child sex offenders. Which is why I was like, I should probably
specify.
Make sure to say that they are child sex offenders. Anyways, so the house finally sold in July of 2019 for way less than the asking price, Well, and well under what the Broadduses originally bought the house for around $959,000.
Oh no! And it started out as 1.4 million, right?
They bought the house for 1.4 million. I don't know what they were asking for.
Big loss.
But it definitely wasn't that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had done a lot of things over the years to try to protect the house, including installing cameras in all of the rooms, because the renters asked them to after they got the letter. They're like, "Can you please install cameras? Thank you." And they even went as far to have the house blessed by a priest. To this day, we still don't know who the Watcher is, who the Watcher was, if they're still
watching,
doing the thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Because the house only sold in July 2019. I haven't seen any information about another letter showing up.
Okay.
So I don't know what that means. A lot of people were like, "Oh, this is a hoax. It's just, or it's Derek sending these letters to this house." You know, he's for some reason threatening his own family. Like, I mean, Derek has obviously denied all of this. Like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
Some people thought it was just a weird. Someone was doing this. I don't know.
Yeah. And what if it was just like a really bored teenager?
Exactly. But that's the thing. Like, he did actually send anonymous letters to his neighbors, claiming they were from the Watcher after they moved out.
Okay.
I think it's kind of like a last-ditch effort to like lure them out of their hiding place. Like, I'm going to send them these letters and, you know, see if it gets a rise out of any of them.
Yeah.
To, like, come forward and say that they were the Watcher. Because he did admit to writing those letters later on because he was like, I just wanted to see.
Wait, who admitted to?
Derek. So after they moved out and they sold the house, he sent letters to the neighbors.
Oh, okay. And from like, supposedly the Watcher, just as a, like, experiment.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I got you.
So those weren't actually from the Watcher. They were from him, but those are the only ones that he anonymously sent.
Okay.
He denied, again, ever having written any of the Watcher letters. Yeah, so nobody knows who the Watcher is, where they came from, who they could possibly be. But there are a couple of media influences that the internet community around this and I guess police, I don't know. You have to explore every avenue, right?
Yeah.
So some possible media influences for the origin of the Watcher are the Watcher movie starring Keanu Reeves and James Spader, and surprisingly, Aunt May from the new Spider-Man. Tom Holland Spider-Man? Aunt May is in that movie.
Wait, what?
She's in this, like, old movie with Keanu Reeves and James Spader. Yeah, it's really weird.
Gosh.
There's also a video game called Dark Void with reptilian aliens called Watchers, which Michael Langford, if you remember the family with the adult children, he's one of them that was investigated. He allegedly likes to play that game, so they were like, could be him trying to be one of these aliens that watch people.
Yeah.
Because it's like an alien race that invaded Earth, and they're like, it's war against the humans. But yeah, so those are a couple of media influences that could have possibly birthed the idea of the Watcher. But there's not really any similarities in terms of plot.
Yeah.
Besides, the video game is obviously aliens versus humans, but the Watcher is about a serial killer who stalks a policeman.
Oh.
So maybe similar in that way, but why would they try to transfer that over into, like, a rural area in New Jersey?
Yeah. And also it just sounds like the Watchers losing it a little bit. With, like, the whole young blood thing, and it really seems like they believe that the house is personified somehow.
Yeah,
like
I don't
living
really know.
and paranormal stuff is happening. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
so that's the story of the Watcher House.
Wow. I don't feel watched right now. At all. Thanks, Cody.
You're welcome.
God. Wow. I don't like that. It's like, it wasn't murder or gory, but it was still unsettling as heck.
Right.
Ooh.
I'm so sorry. You kept saying you got paranoid about things, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah. I mean, it was also due to too much weed, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I feel fine right now. But yeah. Well, yikes. I hope that eventually gets solved, because that would be good to know what happens.
Yeah, I mean, when they first opened the case about it, like, there's no DNA, there's really nothing to go on. So they did actually reopen the case when another letter was sent later on, because they were like, okay, finally, there's enough information, but it's still not a lot of information. So
yeah,
I think it's just closed right now.
Yeah, and it's like there's no crime scene either to investigate.
And I don't know what would be enough information or like evidence to reopen it either. Like, what would it take to reopen the case?
Yeah, like maybe handwriting analysis, or some miraculous improvement in DNA where they could get something super small of a letter. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, because before, when you still licked envelopes to close them, I don't know, people still do that, but they used to be able to get, when DNA was first starting to be a thing, like, a lot of people were getting caught because they would lick the envelopes of letters that they were sending, and they can pull DNA from, like, the stamps, or the glue on the envelope. So maybe one day figure that out. But I don't know how they sealed their letters, how they sent them in envelopes. Maybe they put a sticker on there, a little happy face sticker.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, or like also like track who bought those types of envelopes and those papers, unless they were like really common. I feel like this is a case for forensic files or something.
No, they did mention that it was like card shaped, so I'm assuming it's just like your standard envelope.
Okay.
Easy to track, or not?
Dang.
Not easy to track. Common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I do not like it. But it was a good story. Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice. Thanks for sharing.
Yes. Spooky.
Are you ready to hear about Dybbuk's and Jewish exorcism?
No.
Yes, you are, because it's so great. Dude, it's like, okay, just wait and see. It's like not even really that. It's so low key.
Okay.
Like, think about Catholic exorcism. This is like the opposite of Catholic exorcism.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I'm trying to picture that. I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, well, you're about to find out, buddy. So we kind of covered Dybbuk's before in, was it the second episode that I did like Dybbuk boxes?
Something like that.
Yeah, I was like a fake thing. But Dybbuk's are real in Jewish folklore. Yeah, so just to recap, a Dybbuk is kind of demon that will possess Jewish people. Usually they're the spirit of and not a person who is not the pillar of the community, I would say, who has unfinished business and wants to use like a host to deal with it or to try to resolve it. Which is why Dybbuk boxes don't make sense, because Dybbuks can only attach to people, not to objects. So,
got it. Okay.
Which is cool. So Dybbuk's and Dybbuk possession didn't come from like other types of demon folklore, like European folklore or biblical texts, but instead it came from the Kabbalistic writings in the 12th century, and Kabbalah is like a mystical way of interpreting Torah. So Dybbuk folklore like evolved kind of separate from other folklore that was already around. And yeah, so during the 12th century, when Kabbalah was being written, people were super concerned about proper burials. Many people believed that improperly buried ghosts and bodies would not be able to enter the afterlife, and they would just become a wandering, unhappy soul.
I mean, that's legit.
Yeah, it totally is. And then at the same time, the theory of transmigration was kind of rising in popularity. And transmigration is the idea that spirits can move into people's bodies to continue living in some sort of way.
Gross.
Yeah. But even though the idea of like any kind of bodily possession is terrifying to us in 2020, transmigration wasn't a particularly spooky idea until the late 1400s. Sorry, I've got a lot of history in this one.
Okay.
I guess it was just kind of like a sense of acceptance, like, oh yeah, demonic possession happens.
It's a thing.
Kind of like the flu happens, I guess. And also, it's really interesting. So most people who are possessed were women. I think like 60% women were possessed by demons. 9 out of 10 demons were men. And there was some other rule. I don't know if I wrote it down. And female Dybbuk's could only possess living female people, but they couldn't possess men, while male demons could possess both women and men.
That's weird. Okay.
Basically, like, a female spirit doesn't have the power to, like, if we're gonna sexualize this, which it totally was sexualized, like penetrate a male body or something.
Great.
So like lots of grody sexism. But also like in this time, demonic possession, like women being possessed, was a way for them to say things that would otherwise not be appropriate, I guess. So if they're like, oh, I'm possessed by a demon, I'm gonna air out all my complaints about everything, kind of. Then it was like a tool for women to actually be able to speak.
Yeah. Like, I was drunk. I didn't know what I was saying.
Exactly. But then secretly it's like, no, I just needed an excuse to say it.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so it was kind of, as I said, like, demonic possession wasn't like taken as this big spiritual crisis, but more of like a mode of infection almost. And then guess what happens? In the late 1400s, Christians wanted to reconquer Spain because what was it? The Moorish people were in power, and I think the Moors were Jewish. I'm not sure. I didn't have time to look up that whole thing. But anyways, the Christians want to reconquer Spain. What?
I remember from Shakespeare, Moors were people of color.
Oh, nice. Were they Jewish too, or?
I don't think so. I think they were just Moors were nomadic people from North Africa. They invaded Spain, taking their Islamic religion and culture with them in 711.
Nice.
Yeah, so I guess they converted Spain to Islam.
Okay. Yeah. From my research, it said that like those 400 years where the Moors were in charge was just like a very good time for Jewish people. I guess. Like, and they were like allowed to be in Spanish society and like accepted and stuff.
I mean, I just clicked on this website and it was like, oh yeah, they converted Spain. Like, they tried to convert Spain to Islam, right?
Yeah.
Which meant that the Christian church was like pushed to the side. And that's the whole thing about like the Christian reconquest.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
No. That is great.
I'm trying to get context, but this is turning into a history lesson. So maybe that's why Jewish people were excited, because they're like, finally, these fucking crazy ass people trying to convert us are gone.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah, no. Actually, thanks for looking that up, because I'm like, oh, that's going to be a big hole in my story. Yeah. So, cool.
We got it. We're good.
Okay. Yes. Well, so those whole 400 years of Jews being in Spain and coexisting with everyone was great. And then the Inquisition happened. Because Christians wanted to reconquer, because of this kind of usurping of the Moors, Jewish communities had to scatter across the Mediterranean and Eastern Europe, which I think is how the division between Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews happened, because Ashkenazis were in Eastern Europe while Sephardic Jews were in the Mediterranean.
That makes sense.
At least that's what my research led me to believe, but I'm also not a Jewish history scholar.
Got it. Okay.
I'm like,
I mean, it makes sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah. So it was like after the trauma of mass expulsion from Spain that Dybbuk's started to resurface and evolve in folklore. I didn't say who was saying this, but it was okay. So there's this director of Columbia University's Yiddish program, and a specialist in Dybbuk's as a literary tradition, which is so specific.
Yeah.
And I would fucking love that. And I'm gonna try to pronounce his name.
Okay.
Agnieszka Ilajudo.
Okay.
I am just gonna call him Leg, because his name starts out with Leguto.
Got it.
Okay. So anyways, he said in 1548, during the aftermath of that horror and after 3 centuries of Dybbuk dormancy, spirit possessions occurred among the Sephardic Jews of Safed. And then, so that became a whole thing. And so now we're going to go into what happens when a Dybbuk possesses a Jewish person. Do you have any theories?
I'm ready.
Okay, so what it often starts with is a sudden fall to the ground. A very sudden fall.
A stroke.
Then come convulsions, aches, and or uncontrollable weeping, which is still pretty chill compared to Catholic possession, I would say.
Sure. I mean, I feel like all these things happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Catholic possession.
Yeah. Possession. I kind of already talked about this, but possession also involved going against community standards, like refusing to participate in the congregation and rebelling against rules. But it can get spooky. So people who had a Dybbuk clinging to them might speak in a strange voice, or they might have impossible knowledge about past or future events, far away events, or secret sins within the community.
I love that.
What?
A gossiping demon? I'm about it.
A what demon?
A gossiping demon.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff. And then I kind of went over, the demographics, if we're going to be binary, male versus female.
Yes.
Hosts and demons. And then, so, I want you to try to guess how you get rid of a Dybbuk.
Dunk their heads in salt water.
It's no. it's very pacifist.
Okay. Give them a flower and say you love them. And then all the love that you pass through that flower expels the demon from their body.
That's so sweet, and actually not totally that far off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What happens when you want to get rid of a Dybbuk is that the rabbi and the demon sit down to have a chat.
Yes.
About why the Dybbuk is possessing this person.
Amazing.
And can they please leave? So yeah, that's kind of what I mean when I said that Jewish exorcisms are the opposite of Catholic exorcisms. There's no shouting the power of Jesus. I don't know what the equivalent would be. The power of God compels you, or like all that really violent yelling and stuff.
Maybe that's what we need to do. Just be nice to the demons.
Exactly.
Why are people so aggressive?
Yeah. And
why are Catholics so aggressive?
I don't know, because do you want to know what happens when the Dybbuk is like very stubborn and won't leave?
What?
Is that the rabbi either threatens to expose them to the Torah scrolls, or they call for the shofar to be blown and to scare the demon out of the body. Do you know what a shofar is?
I do not.
It's like this like giant horn that we blow on Yom Kippur and like other cool holidays.
Got it.
Yeah, I forget what the religious significance is. Like, it might have been blown to part the Red Sea or the sea. I don't know, but it's a religious artifact. Oh yeah, and and the rabbi might also threaten to expose the demon to like other sacred artifacts. And there is at least one case of an exorcist trying to beat the demon out of someone. So it's like not totally removed from that.
Sounds Catholic.
Yeah, but what I hear is that the typical response is to kind of try to talk the demon out of possessing the host, and like it all ties back to the idea that Dybbuk is a spirit with unfinished business. Mm-hmm. So the process is really focused on like making a deal and negotiating to help the demon get what they need to get done so that it can leave the community.
Got it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very anticlimactic kind of possession story. Yeah. Have you seen that the movie? I think it's called The Possession.
No.
Okay. But it's like a movie about a Dybbuk box, and then this Jewish person exorcises this child who was possessed by the Dybbuk or something, and it's all very not correct. Yeah.
Love it.
But then, so there's this quote by Professor Legs. Mm-hmm. And he says that this trope marks a logical shift. Quote, as modern Jews, quote, we are, in a sense, possessed by the past. The revival of interest in the Dybbuk might come from the nostalgia for the ritual aspects of life that most people in this age of secularization don't have anymore. So,
got it.
Yeah, kind of a quick analysis. Mm-hmm. But yeah. There's not a lot more exciting stuff to say about Jewish exorcism, I guess.
I mean, they're very nice.
They are very nice. And, like, I personally love it. And it's so Jewish. It's, like, so, yeah. It's very practical. But, yeah, so if I was going to get possessed by any demon, I would prefer it to be a Dybbuk.
Yeah.
Because I know that the demon just wants to get their shit done.
Mm-hmm.
Still, they don't have consent to possess me, so that's bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but anyways,
that's the only negative of a Dybbuk. Yeah,
is that they still
don't ask for consent.
Yeah, they're still violating a lot of boundaries.
Yeah.
But hey, at least it's not like they're like the manifestation of like pure evil, because pure evil doesn't really exist. So hey.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, would you like to hear a word of the week palate cleanser?
Yes.
The word of the week is diaspora, which means it means the movement, migration, or scattering of a people away from an established or ancestral homeland. Oh. So, like the split between like Sephardic and Ashkenazi Jews is like, you would then say that those communities are in diaspora because they're no longer together. And yeah.
I always thought it was pronounced diaspora, but
diaspora. Yeah, I'm not totally sure. Here, there's a
diaspora.
Yep, I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I usually am. I usually pronounce things so that I remember how to spell them, and then I pronounce them wrong because English is not phonetic.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and diaspora also refers to the Jews living outside Palestine or modern Israel.
Got it.
Cool. Yeah, and Jews have experienced a lot of that. So, in fact, the number one definition is characterized as capitalized Judaism. So, okay. But also refers to, what is it? Members of the African diaspora, people settled far away from their ancestral homelands.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool.
I don't know if that quite counts as a palate cleanser because it's still kind of heavy.
Sad. Yeah.
But hey, is it time to close out?
I think so.
Okay.
You can find us on the internet after we close out here.
On the World Wide Web.
I don't know why I say that every time. You can find us on the internet. At Twitter.
Actually, there's nowhere else to find us.
Yeah.
Except on the internet.
You can find us on the internet at Horror Corner Podcast on Twitter and Instagram and patreon.com/Horror Corner Podcast. You can also find us on Spotify and iTunes and wherever you listen to your podcasts because we finally got that on board and it's now easier than ever to find us on the internet to listen to our episodes. We're also, as always, on YouTube at Horror Corner Podcast. You can watch the whatever length of video that is. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm so good at my job here. Close this out, Elle.
All right.
After my train wreck.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to us in the horror corner.
Yeah.
Not the horror corner. God damn it. Yeah, so thank you. We look forward to talking at you again next Monday. That's gonna do it for us. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Elle.
I'm Cody.
This is the Horror Corner Podcast. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.